So, greetings to everyone. We're continuing our global Quran conversations on translations, and not only on translations, of course, on the historical and other perspectives. My name is Mićo Yakubovych. I'm moderating today's talk, and I'm glad to invite our guest, Professor Enes Karić, who actually a professor of Quranic and Islamic Studies at Faculty of Islamic Studies, University of Sarajevo. In 1994-1996, he served as the Minister of Education and Science in the government of the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina. In 2003-2007, he was elected to the position of the Dean of the Faculty of Islamic Studies, Sarajevo, and delivered lectures at many universities like in Ljubljana, Boston, Zagreb, Istanbul, Leiden, Yale University. Also, he was the Alliance Guest Professor of Islamic Studies in the Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich. He published dozens of books on hermeneutics of the Quran, modern trends in Islam, Islam and Europe, and his novels like Song of Wild Birds, The Jewish Cemetery, Man by Accident, Cherry Corals, God Slaves have been well received by the readers, and of course he's the author of one of the recent Quran translations into Bosnian language. Professor Enes, the floor is yours. Just remembering we have around 40-45 minutes for your presentation and then half an hour of discussion, question, and so on. You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Mykhaylo. Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you, for having me. Greetings and regards from Sarajevo. And we can start. As you can see, the topic of my presentation today will be about translations of the Qur'an and Proselytism, the cases of Serbian and Bosnian translations. Of course, in the focus of my presentation will be two translations. The first one is from Mićo Ljubibratić, Hercegovac. The translation was published in Belgrade in 1895. The second one is Bosnian translation published in Sarajevo in 1937. Whenever we speak about Bosnian language, Serbian language, Croatian language, Montenegrin language, it is a scientific fact that all of these four languages are, in matter of fact, one and the same language, because we have no need to go to schools, maybe to faculties to learn, let's say, these languages as a completely foreign ones. This is just a remark in the beginning. Both these translations are very significant cultural events in their time, but also had other implications, political, ideological, and literary ones. This is a picture of Mićo Ljubibratić. He was born in 1839. He died in 1889. One very interesting figure in the history of translation of the Quran into Bosnian, Serbian, Croatian, Montenegrin. Also, he is a very much outstanding figure in the interpretation of the Quran in Bosnia and Herzegovina and in what is known as former Yugoslavia. When it comes to his life, in brief, he attended an Orthodox primary school in his hometown in Trebinje. Trebinje is a very close town to Dubrovnik. After finishing elementary school, he went to an Italian high school in Dubrovnik. During those times, Serbian nation had a very active community in Dubrovnik. This Italian gymnasium was in a way a Serbian gymnasium in Dubrovnik. Mićo Ljubibratić graduated around 1855, and what we know from many evidence, he learned French and Italian in Dubrovnik, and he was fluent in these two languages. Of course, from 1858 to 1865, Ljubibratić often went to Belgrade. Why? Because it was time of political turmoil in the Balkans. I mean, Christian nations, Serbs, Montenegrins, they wanted to expel the Ottoman Empire from the Balkans. Mićo Ljubibratić became, during this period, very close to revolutionary and insurgent circles in Serbia. Revolutionaries worked to raise a great uprising of the Orthodox believers in the Balkans. These uprisings were directed against the Ottoman Empire in the Balkans. Ljubibratić also spent some time in Moscow for the sake of learning activities and jobs when it comes to the uprisings. He also participated in political activities that focused on the ideological agitation that sought to end the presence of the Ottoman Empire in the Balkans. Some informations about Mićo Ljubibratić we find even today in some literary magazines, for example, like Serbia. Ljubibratić started translating the Qur'an into Serbian sometime around 1868. There is one page in this literary magazine, Serbia, where it is written that Mićo Ljubibratić is honest Serbian priest. Really, in matter of fact, we do not know whether he was a priest, Orthodox priest. But anyway, now we are approaching to these questions, why did Ljubibratić start translating the Qur'an? There are many reasons. Bosnian unitarism was a first reason. The Ottoman Empire should recognize Bosnia and Herzegovina as an independent state. In some of the evidence about Mićo Ljubibratić, we see this information about him, that he was a kind of Bosnian Unitarian politician. After that, Bosnia and Herzegovina would be governed by Serbs, Bosnian Muslims, they are today Bosniaks, and Croats. Second reasons, Muslims of Bosnia and Herzegovina were tied to the Ottoman Empire religiously, politically, and culturally. And Mićo Ljubibratić was aware of these facts. Muslims of Bosnia and Herzegovina were afraid of a Russian influence in the Balkans and in Bosnia. Still, we are the Muslims of Bosnia and Herzegovina. We are afraid of that influence. In addition to that, Ljubibratić believed that the Muslims of Bosnia and Herzegovina should be persuaded to politically support Serbian political projects in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The main point in that project was Bosnia and Herzegovina must be together with Serbia when it comes to the so-called project of national states after the withdrawal of the Ottoman Empire. Third reasons are as follows. Although Ljubibratić was a Bosnian unitarist, he believed that the Muslims of Bosnia and Herzegovina should be politically emancipated. This statement needs an explanation. That means Bosnia-Herzegovina Muslims, they are not able to be self-political emancipated people, but they need to have a Serbian nationalist movement to be politically emancipated. This emancipation would be in accordance with the main Serbian political goals in the Balkans in general and in Bosnia-Herzegovina in particular. Serbian literary papers from that time, for example, Ujedinjena omladina Srpska, United Youth of Serbia, report that Mićo Ljubibratić will, with his translation of the Qur'an into Serbian, in this way most clearly show Serbia's opinion of its Turkified brothers. This syntagma, the Turkified brothers, means Bosnian Herzegovinian Muslims. Turkified brothers also was a common phrase in the Serbian press in the 19th century that denoted the Muslims of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and they are today's Bosniaks. Muhammedans of Serb nationality was also another syntagma which was frequently used in the Serbian press and journalism of the time. Proselytism. Which kind of proselytism we see in these efforts of Mićo Ljubibratić? It was not a religious proselytism. No, not at all. It was proselytism which has connections with the politics. Mićo Ljubibratić's proselytism was political proselytism, directed towards the Muslims of Bosnia and Herzegovina. That means you, Bosnia-Herzegovina Muslims, you have to be with Serbs. Why? Because you are Slavs. Our language is one and the same. Our, let's say, national cultures, it is one and the same, etc., etc. So Ljubibratić believes that with his translation of the Qur'an into Serbian, he will win, he will attract the Muslims of Bosnia and Herzegovina to accept the national and political goals of Serbia and the Serbian people in the Balkans in the mid-19th century. Mićo Ljubibratić, he took part in so-called Nevesinska puška, Nevesinje uprising in 1875. The Orthodox against the Ottoman Empire. That was the Nevesinje uprising main aim. Also, Orthodox Christians in Bosnia and Herzegovina were on the side of Serbia and Russia, while the Muslims of Bosnia and Herzegovina, they were on the side of the Ottoman Empire. Why we have these, let's say, opting for that side or this side? It is a remnant or aftermath of history. It's a very long story, but still today we have a very same, let's say, affiliations. Mićo Ljubibratić was a prominent leader of the Nevesinje uprising, but he also was deeply aware of the victims, either Orthodox or Muslim, on both sides, because it is, they are Slavs, they are Slavic peoples. Also, he participated in the negotiations on the ceasefire. Once or more than once, he met with Omerbeg Čemerlić. Omerbeg Čemerlić was a leader of the Bosnia-Herzegovina Muslims during those times. In 1875, Mićo Ljubibratić traveled to Mostar for peace negotiations. And when he visited Mostar, he realized that something must be done for the case of stopping the war, for the case of stopping the war. There are many political expectations of Mićo Ljubibratić, but political expectations of Mićo Ljubibratić were not fulfilled. At the Congress of Berlin in 1878, the European powers gave Austria-Hungary a mandate to occupy Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia became a corpus separatum in that European empire. Of course, you realize that corpus separatum is a Latin syntagma. It means, let's say, semi-independent body inside the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And now I would like to show to you these two pictures. This picture shows the situation, geopolitical situation in the Balkans, in Europe, between 1815 to 1859. And this picture just was, in a way, the picture which shows to us political situations after the Berlin Congress in 1878. Mićo Ljubibratić, in a way, lived in these political situations when we had very big turmoils between the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Ottoman Empire. The Russian Empire is in the process of advancing, etc., etc. So these two pictures are very, very interesting for our presentation today. Mićo Ljubibratić raised rebellions and uprisings against the Ottoman Empire, as we said it. Also, he continued to do so against the Austro-Hungarian Empire as well. In 1878, he started an uprising in Boka Kotorska. After that, during 1880, he started several more uprisings in Bosnia and Herzegovina. During his revolutionary activities in 1878 to 1880, Mićo Ljubibratić won over several thousand Bosnian and Herzegovinian Muslims for uprisings against Austrian Hungary. Also, in 1879, he visited Italy and he met Garibaldi there. So it was network. In a way, one network. That network was against every empire, except when it comes to the personality of Mićo Ljubibratić, except Russian Empire. When it comes to the Catholics in Bosnia and Herzegovina, they refused to support these Ljubibratić uprisings. And now we are approaching to his translation of the Qur'an into Serbian, but in the same time, I could say very openly, very honestly, that this translation also is translation of the Qur'an into Bosnian, because it is one and the same language. So the translation of the Qur'an by Mićo Ljubibratić was published in 1895. After leaving the Austro-Hungarian prisons, he was imprisoned, you know. Ljubibratić emigrated from the corpus separatum, that is from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and he went to live in Belgrade. He finalized the translation of the Qur'an before his death in 1889. And owing to his wife, Mara Ljubibratićka, Mara in Bosnian, in Croatian, in Serbian, in Montenegrin, it is Mary, Maria, Mara. She managed to persuade the Ilija Milosavljević Kolarac Foundation in Belgrade to publish this translation. As you could see, particularly all those among you who know the difference between Latin script and Cyrillic script. This Quran was published in the Cyrillic script. When it comes to the Muslims of Bosnia and Herzegovina, previously, today, there are no any problem to read Latin script, Cyrillic script, etc., etc. But this translation was very good looking, as you could see. And here in the below, it is written Beograd, that means Beograd, štampano u državnoj štampariji Kraljevine Srbije in 1895, printed in the state printing house of the Kingdom of Serbia. Printed in the state printing house of the Kingdom of Serbia. Okay, so this year, 1895, is very important when it comes to the Quranic studies in the Balkans, to the interpretation of the Quran in the Balkans, etc., etc. Next year, 2025, we will have 130 year anniversary after the first edition of the Quran. So after 1895, Ljubibratić's translation of the Quran appeared several times, either as a whole or selections from it. This is one selection of the Mićo Ljubibratić translation. Svetu celom opomene. It is Serbian language, but Ekavica dialect, but very understandable without any going to any schools, etc., etc. It means in English, warnings to the whole world from the Quran. Was published during the communist regime in Yugoslavia, in Belgrade, in 1967. This book is also a kind of some excerpts of the signs of the Quran by Professor Jovanović Batut, Život i zdravlje, bolest i smrt u Kur'anu, Life and Health, Illness and Death in the Quran. It is a very good book. It was published in 1927, in the period between two world wars. Okay, this edition was published in Sarajevo in 1990, when we, the Bosnian Muslims, Bosnia and Herzegovina Muslims, I expected to have Bosnia as an independent state, you know. And this, it is irony of history, believe me, it is irony of history. Nowadays, we, the Muslims in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we tried to have political proselytism towards Serbs, either in Bosnia and Herzegovina or in Serbia. It is very good edition, of course, in Cyrillic script. And this is the newest one publication of the Mićo Ljubibratić translation. It is dating from 2016. From Banja Luka, collaboration of Banja Luka and Sarajevo. It is also the same goal, political goal, to attract, to gain, to win Serbian support for, let's say, Muslims, for Islam as a faith, civilization, etc., etc. But there is no here, please be sure, I assure you, there is no any religious proselytism. Okay. Theories about the translation, about Ljubibratić's translation. First of all, Some say that it is based on the French translation of the Quran by Kazimierski. Some say, other people, that the translation was based on a Russian translation of the Quran, which is largely dependent on the French translation made by Albert Kazimierski, the Bieberstein. According to my knowledge, according to my experience, Mićo Ljubibratić based his translation on the French translation done by Kazimierski. And we know that from many let's say, transliteral navigations in his translation. First of all, whenever he translates the word Islam, he usually used either explanation or directly put in the translation that it is devotion to God. Devotion to God, or as Kazimierski would like to say, relying on the will of God. And here we have translation of Kazimierski's note. Islam means relying on the will of God. And Mićo Ljubibratić usually in his translation, he used to say Islam is predanost Bogu. Predanost Bogu. That means devotion to God or submission to the will of God. Anyway, that is about Islam. And now we have a very interesting translational navigation in his translation, Ljubibratić translation, when it comes to the word Allah. Usually, Mićo Ljubibratić translates it as God or Bog in Serbian, Bog in Croatian, Bog in Bosnian, Montenegrin, whatever. So we compared more than once some translations done and offered by Kazimierski and some translations offered by Ljubibratić. And we see that it is word after word, the same line. Mićo Ljubibratić is following the same line, the same navigations, translational navigations as we see them in the Kazimierski's translation of the Quran. Okay, in his translation, Ljubibratić also follows Kazimierski's in translating the word Muslims. He would Mićo Ljubibratić would like to universalize meaning of the word Muslims. If you say here colloquially Muslims, they are religious community. But if you say that Muslims are people who are devoted to God's will, that is more universal. So that is also his option in his translation of the Quran. When it comes to the names, let's say biblical names, historically seeing included in the Quran, we see that Mićo Ljubibratić used to use Orthodox customs when it comes to the names. So Ibrahim is Avram, Musa is Moses, Yusuf is Joseph, etc., etc. So Mary or Maryam is Maria in his translation of the Quran. We in the Balkans, we have, let's say, our chances or maybe problems, which we see them from within linguistic, social linguistic. For example, every Muslim will say here in Bosnia, Muhammad, Moses, Musa, Isa, Ibrahim, but every Orthodox will say Moisés, Avram, etc., etc. So that is understandable, and that is an obstacle for the readers of among Muslims in Bosnia and Herzegovina whenever they read Mićo Ljubibratić's translation of the Quran. We have many reactions on this translation. Particularly, reactions came from members of the ulema, and they were very negatively. For example, Bošnjak, one newspaper in Bosnia and Herzegovina during those times, this newspaper pointed out that they are opting for the Slavic language. I mean, there are no one Slavic language, but they are opting for that we are in need to have translation of the Quran in the Slavic language, and because people who are not Muslims, they would see that Islam was founded on firmer foundations. It was standpoint of this newspaper. The Skadar Vilayet newspaper in 1896, the newspaper pointed out the translation, Mićo Ljubibratić's translation, will not be true, for it is not just anyone's job to translate the Quran and ascertain its fundamental tenets. Also, one clerical ulema newspaper in Tuzla, its name was Hikmet, was also against Ljubibratić's translation of the Quran. And in one article about Ljubibratić's translation published in 1931, the magazine pointed out that Ljubibratić's translation is čorbine, čorbe, čorba. I mean, čorba is, according to my tiny knowledge of Turkish, is soup. But in English, çorbine, çorbe, çorba means a distant relative of the real thing. Distant relative of the real thing. But during the passage of time, this translation, Mićo Ljubibratić's translation, was welcomed in Bosnia and accepted in Bosnia. For example, this person, Haji Ali Riza Karabek, was a Mostar Mufti. He was a Bosniak. He published his translation of the Quran in 1937. And actually, what Ali Riza Karabek did, he just put inside these two covers Mićo Ljubibratić's translation, but he changed the names, nomenclature. He changed the names in the Quran and some notions into names and notions that are or that were very familiar to the ears of the Bosniaks, of the Bosnian Herzegovinian Muslims. And when this translation was published in 1937 in Mostar, during those times, it was one joke in Bosnia. Oh, Ali Riza Karabek translated the Quran from Cyrillic script to the Latin, to the Latinica, to the Latin script. Anyway, this translation is also very good, very good. Okay, now we are approaching to the second part of our topic today. Mehmed Džemaluddin Čaušević. He was born in 1870. He died in 1938. His translation also has many kinds of proselytism, but the main feature of his translation of the Quran is the scientific interpretation of the Quran. You see here Austro-Hungarian picture. I mean, picture from the times of Austro-Hungarian Empire. Seine Eminence, Mehmed Džemaluddin Čaušević. Seine Eminence. Okay. He was born in this village, northwest Bosnia, Arapuša, very good, picturesque village. From 1880 to 1887, he studied in Medresa in Bihać. In the period 1891 to 1897, Čaušević studied law, literature, theology, philosophy, mysticism, and history in Istanbul under professors Haji Khalis Effendi and Nur Sheherli at the departments of Darul Funun. Darul Funun was a university during the reformist periods of the Ottoman Empire in Istanbul. From 1890 to 1900, Čaušević approaches the young Turk movement. He holds lectures in the reformist circles of the then Ottoman Empire in Macedonia, Anatolia, Istanbul, etc., etc. From 1890 to 1900, Čaušević was friends. Čaušević was a very good friend with Ahmed Cevdet Pasha, with Haki Pasha and their intellectual circle. He spread their reforming ideas and enjoyed their moral support and protection. From 1900 to 1903, was occasionally a newspaper reporter for the Istanbul reformist newspaper Tasfiri Efkar and Terjumani Hakikat, and reported for these two newspapers from Hijaz and Yemen. As you know very well, these times are the time of the Hijaz Railway, and Mehmed Džemaluddin Čaušević was positively astonished with this project. During this time, he performed the Hajj. At the end of 1903, Čaušević returned from Turkey and the Middle East to Bosnia and Herzegovina. Just to say that he met in 1903, he met in Cairo. In matter of fact, he spent 6 months with Muhammad Abduhu, because Čaušević always points out that his main authority in Islam, in Islamic studies, is Muhammad Abduhu. Okay, he was not only a noted member of the ulema in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also a recognized intellectual. He was a polyglot. In addition to the 3 traditional Islamic languages, Arabic, Turkish, Persian, he also knew German and English. In matter of fact, he was very fluent in German. Okay, this is Arabica. Arabica, it was a script, a kind of script invented by Mehmed Džemaluddin Čaušević for his reformational or reform activities here in Bosnia. Namely, ulema, particularly conservative circles of ulema, they rejected to read anything about Islam in the Latin script, or either in Latin script or in Cyrillic script. They rejected it. And Mehmed Džemaluddin Čaušević, instead of using these 2 scripts for the sake of Islamic themes, publishing Islamic themes, he invented Arabica, that means Arabic script and Bosnian language. And he published, believe me, more than 60 books in this script and in Bosnian language. When it comes to some letters which are not existent in Arabic, for example, P, C, Ž, N, O, N, etc., etc., he put some dots below or up of Arabic letters. And this script was very famous in Bosnia. As I told you, more than 60 books he published in Bosnian language and in this script, Arabica. He also founded a printing house in Sarajevo. I know you know the story about the print, the status of the print inside the Muslim societies, etc., etc. Anyway, Čaušević was our religious dignitary who founded a printing house in Bosnia. Reis ul Ulema, he became Reis ul Ulema. It means Grand Mufti. He was elected to this position in 1913, and the ceremonial inauguration took place in Sarajevo in 1914, in the eve of the World War I, of the Sarajevo attentat. He remained, or Sarajevo assassination, he remained in the position of the Grand Mufti until 1930. I am not sure, but this picture shows Mehmed Džemaluddin Čaušević in the capacity of Reis ul Ulema and Prince Ferdinand. They are walking, as you could see, on the streets of Sarajevo. Some say the picture was made 25 hours before Prince Ferdinand was assassinated. Anyway, Čaušević's translation of the Qur'an. It was published in 1937. Čaušević's translation of the Qur'an contains the Arabic original, as well as a large number of commentary explanations. The language of Čaušević's translation of the Qur'an is the language of Bosnian Herzegovinian ulema, but from the urban areas in Bosnia and Herzegovina between the two world wars. Čaušević wanted the language of his translation of the Qur'an to be understandable to everyone in Bosnia and Herzegovina, both Muslims and Orthodox, Catholics and Jews. That is the reason why he translates the word Allah as Bog, God, almost through entire his translation. For example, that's it. Okay, I wanted, he says in the foreword, I wanted our brothers in the world at large to see and discover that we, Muslims in this part of Europe, too, although few in number, are able and willing to translate and interpret the sublime source of our faith, as is being done in the major centers of the Islamic community. I wanted to demonstrate that our generosity of spirit should not be measured in terms of our small numbers in this corner of Europe. These quotations was took from his foreword. Main sources for Čaušević's translation of the Qur'an. First of all, Turkish scholar Omer Riza. After that, George Sale, Gibbon, the English historian. Čaušević also refers to the ancient historian Diodorus Siculus, to Ptolemy, and to the English Encyclopedia of the Holy Scriptures by T.K. Cheney. Also, he relied on the Encyclopedia Britannica, the Encyclopedia Biblica, Encyclopedia of the Old and New Testament, and to English translator of the Quran, Rodwell. Okay. Main features of Čaušević's comments. Below of his translation of the Quran, he offered many comments. He and the co-author of his translation of the Quran, Hafiz Muhammad Panja. First of all, he gives frequent references to the Old Testament. For the first time in our history, our Muslim history in the Balkans, we have one religious dignitary who does not fear to include the Holy Bible in the notes or footnotes of his translation of the Qur'an. Tens and tens of those notes, you know. Also, he has frequent references to the then very frequently used discoveries from the natural sciences. I mean, all these 2 points are a kind of Čaušević's proselytism. He used the Holy Bible in his footnotes for the sake of Christians in Bosnia and Herzegovina. He wants to say to them, look, we do accept the Bible. We do accept some informations from the Bible. Look at it. Look, I use it in my own translation of the Quran. And this, the second point is, his proselytism is also oriented towards Bosnian Muslim intellectuals who are secular. They became, in a way, secular. And he wanted to show to them, look, science is something compatible with the Quran. Don't.
So sorry,
yes.
3 minutes. 3 minutes. Yes.
3 minutes. Okay.
Let's
go. So the goal of these footnotes, I already pointed to that point already. Okay. Through his translation, Čaušević intends to indicate the position of Islam in history. In his translation of the Quran, we see that he speaks in affirmative way about Islam, and that it is nowadays the era of Islam. He says the spiritual authority has passed from the people of Israel to the people of Ismail. You know, there is a rhyming in a way, which is to say that it remained with the descendant of Ibrahim, but that spiritual authority has now passed from the Jews to the Muslims. Also, when come to the word of Islam in his translation of the Quran, he in his notes or in his footnotes, he is naming Islam more than once as an international faith. An international faith. And Čaušević would like to promote universality of Islam. According to his opinion, it will be done in affirmative way, and it will help the Quran be read here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Okay, Čaušević here in his translation of the Quran, he cites many the then European theories from the scientific area, particularly from the natural sciences. Of course, all those, or almost majority of those theories now, these theories are not actual. They are not in fashion. But anyway, when his translation was published, it was very readable text, readable footnotes, readable, if I may to say, readable ideology of his translation of the Quran. So as I pointed out, scientific spirit of the translation, the natural law, man is in the very center of the universe, according to Mehmed Džemaluddin Čaušević. He does not speak about, let's say, ecological problems. If we accept particularly implemented scientific theories, we will have our nature to be destroyed, you know. But Čaušević never mentioned ecological problem. So anthropocentrism is also a way how to attract Bosnian, how to win Bosnian Muslim secular intellectuals to read the Quran in so-called a scientific way. So we have here also many pages in his translation of the Quran about the Quran and science. This is his sentence, man was created as the Lord over nature, etc., etc. Thank you for your attention, and I'm now at your disposal for your questions and maybe for your comments. Once again, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you so much. So we are stopping the record now.